Yo guys, what's going on? My name is HackingIsFreedom and welcome to the 7th episode of What Was Cut, a series where we take a look at what exactly was cut from our favorite games. Today we're going to be talking about Fortnite. Honestly, I was a huge fan of Fortnite and I started playing back in Season 6 before chapters were even introduced, but recently I've stopped playing completely. I was there for Marshmallow's first ever concert, and I was also there for Travis Scott's as well. I have over 700 or 800 skins, and a lot of them are rare too, like the Honor Guard, Iconic, Wonder, and numerous sprays and emojis. I even have the physical cards for the Merry Mint and the Fleet Force bundle, so to say I was a fan is kind of an understatement. Keep in mind everything I'm going to be talking about in this video is related to Save the World, so you won't be seeing much information on the Battle Royale side of things. I will however do another video focusing on Battle Royale if there's enough interest. Anywho, enough talking. Let's hop into the battle bus. Where we dropping, boys? First up, I want to talk about some of the various consumables that were cut, starting with these medkits. The three on the left side were alpha versions, and it seems Epic wanted to use medkits to heal yourself like in Battle Royale, but later changed it to only getting healed from the healing pads. Next up is an apple, and it has a description of the most commonly bobbed for fruit. These did appear later in Season 4 of Battle Royale, but they were once planned earlier for Save the World. Bacon can still be seen in Save the World currently, however it's used for crafting recipes rather than healing. Its description states the duct tape of food can be found in unique places throughout the world. Crafty farmers have even developed a method of growing it in their field. The icon looks pretty different than what we have in the final game. Berries were apparently used for crafting other healing items, as its description states, basic food for crafting healing items, found in plants and bushes. It seems like bacon took over for the berries in the final game. However, clownberries were later added in Battle Royale in Chapter 3, Season 1. Mega Bacon uses the same icon as the normal bacon, however it has a description reading, the most powerful substance in the world, massive healing and reduces stamina consumption by 50% for 30 seconds. These three consumables don't have a description, so not much is known about them. The first being a pumpkin, the second is a fish taco, and the last one is a bucket of fried chicken. I'm sure the developers removed the chicken for looking way too similar to KFC. Brain Juice would reduce your building material cost by 50% for 9 seconds, but once it wears off, building material cost would increase for 50% for 9 seconds. Kinda strange to me. The Mushroom Smoothie would increase your maximum health by 30% for 4 minutes, and also heal 30% of your health. Power Juice would give you a 25% chance to deal critical damage with melee attacks for 90 seconds. Zoom Juice, judging by its description, would absurdly increase the player's speed and jump height for 6 seconds. You can't use any weapons, and you take 50% more damage for the 6-second duration. I'm assuming this would be used in die-hard situations as an scapegoat. Mushroom Brew would restore 2.5% of your health and energy every second for 60 seconds. Fizz would restore 10% of your maximum energy every second for 20 seconds. And the last consumable is a mending potion, and this would regenerate 2.5% of your health every 3 seconds for 4 minutes. It seems a lot of these effects were reused for various character abilities later in development. You know we have to follow up the unused consumables with the unused ingredients, and there's actually some interesting ones here. The first one being a rainbow crystal, and these were planned for tier 6 crafting, which would have been after the sunbeam crystals. Next up is a Moonglow Crystal, and these would have been used in Tier 4 crafting. It was originally yellow, but it was later updated to use the same texture as the Shadow Shard Crystal. So my guess is they replaced the Moonglow Crystals with the Shadow Shards. Spectralite was another ingredient used for Tier 6 crafting, and this would have been after Brightcore. Spectral Twine was once again used for Tier 6 crafting, it would have been after Carved Twine. Vindertech mechanical parts were planned for, you guessed it, Tier 6 crafting, and they would have been after efficient mechanical parts. Spectral mineral powder was once again planned for Tier 6 crafting, and it seems to use the shield potion icon as a placeholder. This ingredient would have been after oxidized mineral powder. Honey was actually used in early stages of the healing pads recipe, but it got cut once that recipe was changed. You would have been able to find honey when destroying various beehives or searching plants and bushes. The blue mushroom is still in the game currently, but the purpose of it is much different. When picked up, as we all know, it gives you shields, but it was originally planned for making various buffs like the potions I spoke about earlier. There's also an unused pink mushroom, which would have worked the same way as the blue mushroom, used for crafting various buffs. A red mushroom, again, would have worked like the previous two mushrooms. It would have been used for crafting various healing buffs. The white mushroom seems to be the only one that would have actually done something rather than just be a crafting component. The white mushroom would have allowed you to increase the strength of any other consumable. So say you use a white mushroom on the power juice. Instead of the normal 25% chance to deal critical damage with melee attacks for 90 seconds, it would have been 50% chance to deal critical damage for 180 seconds. So pretty much double. And the final ingredient is a yellow mushroom. This once again would have been used for crafting various potions. Alrighty, with some of the less interesting stuff out of the way, let's get into the goods. Unused weapons. So first up, we have a weapon labeled as Test Charge Rocket, and it seems this was created solely to test the charging functionality of weapons. It's highly likely this gun inspired or even helped the development of the charged shotgun from Chapter 2, Season 3. Next, we have the Gnome Gun, and you may have actually seen this before. This is pretty much a joke developer weapon, as it shoots out gnomes, plays a guitar strum sound, and uses the Haywire Storm Pistol as its model. This weapon may have been used to test projectile functionality, but that's just my guess. A pair of shotguns that both shoot out grenades are also left over. However, only the legendary one labeled as the Bear is functional. I'm not sure if the Boomstick was an earlier version of the Bear, or vice versa, but the Boomstick was created before the Bear. Also, Boomstick sounds like a reference to Ash Williams' shotgun from Evil Dead, which did come to Battle Royale many years later. We have another shotgun, and it's labeled as Shotgun in the game's code, but shows up in-game as the copper double-barreled shotgun. It's pretty much an exact copy of the normal double-barreled shotgun, but with a stupidly high damage output. This gun was most likely just used for testing purposes. The flare gun was a highly unfinished weapon that would shoot out rockets and only deal 7 damage. This is not the same flare gun that later came to Battle Royale, as some might think, but rather an early version of the Freedom's Herald from Save the World. Just like the first weapon, there's another unused rocket launcher labeled as Troll Launcher, which was most likely used as a test weapon at some point in development. However, it sadly no longer launches trolls, or fires any type of husks. An early version of the hydraulic sniper is still left over as well. There's not much to say about this, other than it uses the Deathwing sniper rifle icon. A recon scanner was supposed to be featured in Save the World at some point, but there's no indication of how it was going to be used. I don't think it was going to work the same as the one seen in Battle Royale, as that would be pretty useless, but maybe it showed quest markers or something. It does show a damage stat, so I honestly have no idea how this would have worked. Last up is one of the most destructive weapons on the list, and it's called Test God Gun. This was obviously used as another test weapon, as the damage is just absurd, and you may have already noticed, but the reload stat is completely missing from this weapon. That's because it reloads instantly. Maybe this was a test for weapons that didn't need to reload? A quick little bonus clip of a weapon called Backpack Minigun. I don't think this was supposed to appear in Save the World, but I thought it was too cool to leave out of the video. Also, a big thanks to Drew's Doggo for originally documenting and uploading these weapons to the cutting room floor. The next category is actually a new one to the What Was Cut series. Concept art has never appeared until now, as we finally have some to talk about. The main concept art we have, sadly, is all of trees, but it's still pretty cool to see concept art in any form. I personally didn't think this much work and thought went into simple tree design, but here it is. The next one is a concept sketch of the promotional key art. We have an early storyboard sketch of the Save the World introduction, some concept art of Dennis, various renders from 2012 and 2015. You can see the massive art style change that Epic Games went through. This concept art of the player's home base I thought was pretty interesting, as it must have been at a very early point in development, because everything is shown is incredibly different to what we got in the final game. Save the World's Alpha originally had plans to introduce a PvP mode, and this is the promotional art that goes with that game mode. There's also 2 icons for each team. Nobody really knows how this game mode was supposed to work, but since it was supposed to be featured in Save the World, perhaps it was a battle of the home bases, or something like that? These last ones aren't technically concept art, but I still think it belongs here. 5 loading screens from the Save the World's Alpha are still sitting in Fortnite's code. You can see some pretty cool goodies here, like how Deliver the Bomb was originally called Deliver the Goods, Close the Gate became Fight the Storm, Power the Reactor became Repair the Shelter, and you can see an early untextured version of the same reactor. Very cool that these still exist in the files. As for unused maps, we only have a few, 6 to be exact, but most of them sadly aren't that interesting. This first map is labeled as Zone Perf Mem, which stands for Performance in Memory, and that's exactly what this map was used for, to test performance in memory. This next one is called Cinematic Test Map, and sure enough, that's exactly what you do here. It obviously doesn't work anymore, but running onto one of these triggers would start a specific cinematic camera sequence. A map labeled as Test Quest Dynamic is another developer testing ground for various interactable objects and quest objects. This next map is called Keep Neighborhood Proto, and it's sadly been fully deleted, but this map once housed an early introduction to Save the World. An early game mode called Keep was supposed to be featured on this map, but it was scrapped very early in development. This map was only ever used once, and only ever seen once. It's called Gameplay Trailer Zone, and I'm sure you know what this was for, judging by its name. This map was used in the 2015 gameplay trailer created by Epic Games, which was showing the first ever gameplay of Fortnite. The only thing of note on this map is some of the textures aren't finished, or possibly just misplaced. Our last map is actually pretty interesting, as a whole zone got cut because of it. It's called Maple Tree Valley, and sadly not much else is known about it. It's believed that due to the visuals, this zone was going to be for some sort of Halloween event, but then again, that's just speculation. As we come to the end of the video, it's once again time for the oddities I couldn't fit anywhere else. Get comfy, as there's quite a lot of strange things to talk about. So, let's get into it. There's two cut rarities that are basically only for developer items like the Troll Launcher Gun. The first rarity is Transcendent, which has a light red color, and the other being Impossible T7, or just Impossible rarity. And this is normally a light green or lime color, but recently Epic Games broke the rarities and saved the world since the removal of rarity colors in Battle Royale. Hence why you're seeing this corrupted Shogun skin showing up as Impossible rarity, but in blue. When you first start Save the World, you're given 5 schematics which cannot normally be upgraded, traded, or scrapped. These used to have a special rarity affixed to them called Handmade, and it was the exact same color as the common rarity. I actually used to have all of these weapons in the Handmade rarity as well, but once Epic changed all Handmade rarity items to common, these special items were lost forever. Next we have some traps, and I think all of these are just early versions of traps that later came to the game, like this first one labeled as Shield Trap. I believe this later became the Anti-Air Trap because of the similar visual effects, or possibly it's an earlier version of this next trap called Armor Trap. Both of these use the Wall Dynamo Trap as a placeholder model, and the Armor Trap increases the maximum health of whatever wall it's attached to. The Armor Trap may have also inspired the creation of the Armored Wall seen in Battle Royale. The last trap is labeled as a turret trap, and it was made purely for testing purposes. It locks onto enemies, fires a rocket at a pretty slow rate, and it also uses the wall dynamo as a placeholder. It's funny to note that no traps currently in Save the World use this exact functionality. I think it would be pretty sick to have a trap that seeked out the husks. The Blaster Mist Monster originally used the normal husk model, but it was slightly bigger and painted purple. There's also an early version of the Chrome Husky Husk, and it seems Epic wanted to use this armor on the normal husks too, as it was possible to destroy the armor before you killed them. Lastly, there's a strange model of a werewolf that was originally planned for Fortnite, as it's in the file for Hexylvania. It's almost fully complete too, it's just missing animations and textures for the rope around its neck. It most likely reused animations from either Mist Monsters or other husks though. Instead of Ray telling you how to play the game, vendor tips would have been located around the map which told you how to do various things. Here's a few clips of them. In 2014, which would be the alpha days of Save the World, the user interface was much different. You can see a lot of early icons, and even the bacon, medkits, and potions I was talking about earlier are here. Also in the alpha days, the visual effect for the Taker's portal was completely different. It still looks pretty cool, but I think it looks too similar to the blue portal from Valve's game Portal. In an earlier stage of development, but not quite as early as the alpha, the banner gadget worked in a completely different way. Instead of raising the max health of structures in a small proximity, it would just upgrade a few structures around the banner to the next valid tier. Seems like a very pointless gadget in my opinion. I'm glad it was reworked. You were once able to respec your research if you messed it up, as this file is labeled as Research Respec Token, but there's also another file that calls it a Vault Access Key, so I'm not really sure which is correct. Unless the respec table was located inside of a vault of some sort. Speaking of research, the research lab was originally a skill tree upgrading system. The one on the top is at an earlier point in development, and the one on the bottom is much newer. So time did go into updating and keeping this system. I wonder how long they were planning on using it for. You would be able to upgrade all of your standard features here, like your health, shield, attacks, and trap or ability damage. This graphic would also indicate where you were currently located in the skill tree. This seems very cool, and a lot more interactive than the research lab. At some point in development, a car battery was used as a crafting component. This was quite possible a placeholder for the batteries we currently have in the game. This blue and gray cylinder, labeled as Loot Box Cylinder, was most likely an earlier version of the Pyramid Cache loot box dropped when defeating a mini-boss. Not much else is known about this though, so I could be totally wrong. Lastly, a texture labeled as Test is a monochrome image of what looks like camouflage with some random bugs on top. I'm not sure if this was used to test very small insects or possibly animated textures, but there are no other textures that look anything like this in the game. And that's all I have for Fortnite Save the World. I've had so much fun on Fortnite over the years, and it's kinda sad to see how much has changed and where it is now. Sometimes, less is just more, you know? Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.